Welcome to our Bible Boost. In the mid-1800s, Karl Marx said that religion is the opiate of the masses. Some today say that religion is an antiquated worldview with little to say to postmodern times. With all due respect to secularists, humanists, agnostics, and others, my understanding of Christianity goes down along some of the same paths but comes to a different conclusion. I'll admit, believing that there is a God does not always come naturally. However, I confess along with Martin Luther, who years ago wrote that I believe that I cannot, on my own understanding or efforts, believe in Jesus Christ or come to Him. However, the Holy Spirit calls me through the gospel. We believe that Holy Spirit calls, gathers, enlightens, and sanctifies the entire Christian church. Being called to faith through the gospel, that's the story we have before us this week in Nicodemus. Nicodemus was a well-educated, smart man, and yet he had questions. He was curious about Jesus and this life in the Spirit, curious about the possibilities. And so he comes to Jesus with his questions, and Jesus responds to him with one of the most famous Bible verses, John 3:16. Now, what I like about this reading is that Nicodemus isn't afraid to ask his questions. He asks, how can one be born from above? How can these things of the kingdom be true? My understanding of Christianity is that we take questions seriously because Jesus took questions seriously. What questions do you have about life in the Spirit? Jesus said to Nicodemus, what is born of flesh is flesh. What is born of the Spirit is spirit. We are being invited into a life of faith by being born again. Not through the womb, but being born by God's grace. To come to a life of faith, to come to life in the Spirit, and that life in the Spirit makes all the difference for me. You know, exercise gurus will be quick to tell us that even those who have trouble with arthritis or achy joints can continue to exercise by coming into the water. There in a pool, the buoyancy of the water lifts one up, relieves the pressure on those achy joints, and one can flourish and thrive and continue to exercise. The church is saying the same. Come to the water. Jesus said, be born into the kingdom through water and the Spirit. I see the difference of that life in the flesh and life in the Spirit as being in the water. Life in the flesh, we feel the heaviness and experience the heaviness of sin. But life in the Spirit, we experience the buoyancy of forgiveness. Later in John's Gospel, we hear again of Nicodemus. In chapter 7, he defends Jesus. In chapter 19, he brings spices to the tomb of his friend Jesus. He started out with questions, but came to faith through the hearing of the gospel. God invites you to the same. This weekend, 15 young people will affirm their faith through our confirmation process, so the 10:45 service shifts to 11 a.m. May God bless you and God boost you until we meet in worship.